Chapter 1. Echoes in the Rusted Halls. Arian Voss had always been drawn to broken things. In the vast expanse of the Ember Nebula, where stars bled their final light and cosmic winds scoured the hulls of passing vessels, wrecks lay strewn like carcasses in a forgotten graveyard. Stationed aboard the salvage tug Persephone, Arian spent his days threading deactivated drones through shattered corridors, coaxing life from rusted conduits, and wrestling stubborn power cores back to responsiveness. But nothing in his ragtag apprenticeship had prepared him for the sheer scale of the derelict he now faced. The former dreadnought Sierra's Lament, once the pride of the Orion Coalition's fleet, now a silent leviathan drifting near the nebula's edge. As he stepped onto the docking ramp, the lights in his suit flickered against the hull's charred plating, illuminating jagged gashes where plasma lances had carved through bulkheads. Every footfall echoed down empty passageways, carrying whispers of a battle long told only in embered debris and half-buried star charts. Pausing to secure his magnetic boots, Arian ran a hand over the mangled access panel at the entryway. Weld lines had cracked and curled like ancient runes, and the emergency seals bore scorch marks from a meltdown that must have turned the ship's innards into molten glass. With a hiss of escaping atmosphere, he vented the airlock, eased the inner hatch open, and slipped into darkness. His helmet's scanner pulsed, painting ghostly outlines of fallen turrets and collapsed support struts. He inhaled, tasting the bitter tang of exhausted coolants and oxidized metal. This was no ordinary salvage job. Sierra's Lament had gone missing during the Coalition's final offensive against the Cerulean Reavers, its entire crew presumed lost in the void. Yet here it lay, untouched for decades, drifting like a leviathan exiled from the deep. Rolling out a portable light emitter, Arian traced its glow across walls adorned with hull breach scars, each streak a testament to an unimaginable barrage. He whispered to himself, recalling the Coalition debriefs he'd scavenged in dusty databanks back home, how Sierra's Lament had been the first dreadnought to break the Reaver blockade, its captain hailed as a war hero before it vanished without a trace. Some said its disappearance was due to a malfunction deep in the quantum drive. Others claimed darker rumors of a secret mission that had doomed the vessel. Arian had shrugged off those myths as salvage lore, until today. His job was simple: extract the power cores, dismantle what he could, pocket any salvageable tech, and sell the remnants on the black market at Talos Station. But even as he spoke through comms with his partner, Jorah, guiding her to stage the tug's cargo crane, he felt the weight of history pressed down on him, urging him to peer deeper into the wreck's silent heart. He advanced through the central aft corridor, where the bulkheads bowed inward as if the ship had inhaled too deeply of the nebula's void. Sparks drifted across the floor like fireflies, remnants of damaged power lines still pulsing with residual charge. At the corridor's end, a reinforced hatch loomed, its surface engraved with the emblem of the Orion Coalition, two crossed swords beneath a ringed star. Arian's breath caught. Interior maintenance logs had spoken of such hatches as security doors to the core archives, places ordinary salvage crews seldom accessed. Fingers trembling, he overrode the lock, his toolkit humming as microdrills bored through the seal. The hatch slid open with a low groan, revealing a domed chamber illuminated by faint emerald glows. Banks of crystalline data matrices hovered on shock absorbers, their surfaces etched with alien sigils that pulsed in time with an inaudible heartbeat. The air in that vault was thick with charged particles, and as Arian crossed the threshold, his scanners flared to life. He approached the central console, a towering crystalline prism suspended above a pedestal of braided conduits. Symbols danced across its facets, an ancient code that seemed to predate the Coalition itself. Jorah's voice crackled in his ear, urging caution as her drone hovered behind him, recording every angle. Arian knelt before the prism, tracing the runes with gloved fingertips. The glyphs responded, shimmering brighter, as if recognizing a living presence. Heart pounding, he connected his suit's interface cable to the prism's base. A shock of energy raced up his arm, and images flooded his HUD. Star charts of galaxies long dead, coordinate grids to systems thought myth, and a fractured holographic interface that framed a single message: for the last custodians of potential, unlock the gateway. The console's hum rose to a crescendo, and with a hiss of displaced air, a hidden compartment slid open beneath the prism. Inside lay a small, palm-sized orb pulsing with cobalt light, its surface marbled with streaks of violet. Arian stared, breathless. He had read about such artifacts in dusty academic tomes, relics of the precursor civilization, said to harness raw cosmic energy at a scale that could reshape star systems. His mind reeled at the implications. A power source that could rewrite physics, a code that could open gateways through space and time. His greedy instincts warred with reverence. If he took the orb, he could retire from salvage work forever, live like a king on Talos Station. But if this secret fell into the wrong hands, pirates, warlords, or remnants of the cerulean reavers, the universe would tremble under its unleashed force. Arian tucked the orb into a reinforced carrying gauntlet and stood slowly, the vault's lights dimming as if honoring the transfer. He turned, scanning the corridor behind him, yet the wreck remained silent. Somewhere deep in the engines, a faint pulse hinted that Sierra's lament still remembered its purpose, its buried secret now awakened. He reached for his comms and whispered to Jorah, voice barely above a breath. "I've got something. You need to see this. But keep it off the manifest. What I've found can't be sold, not like scrap. This changes everything." As he took the first step back into the passage, the prism softly chimed, projecting a final glyph, a call to destiny that echoed in Arian's mind. In that silent, rusted corridor, he realized the wreck was not merely a sunken relic. It was the seed of a revolution that could reshape the fate of every star in the universe and maybe, just maybe, awaken powers beyond imagination. Arian's boots clicked steadily against the corroded steel floor as he retraced his steps from the vault, the mysterious cobalt orb safely nestled within the secure compartment of his suit. His mind raced with questions, each more overwhelming than the last. How had the Sierra's lament hidden such an artifact amid the chaos of its destruction? Why had its crew been lost without a trace, while carrying something so significant? The corridors he had once seen as mere skeletal remains now seemed to pulse with an invisible life force, as though the ship itself was awakening from a long slumber to reveal its final secret. The hum of the orb was almost hypnotic, vibrating faintly through the reinforced walls of his suit, and Arian felt it resonating with some primal part of himself. He knew from scattered data archives that the precursor civilization, the architects of ancient cosmic wonders, were rumored to have crafted devices capable of bending the very fabric of space and time. Legends spoke of gateways, portals between stars, and energy sources that could ignite entire worlds or collapse black holes at will. But such tales were dismissed by most as myth, fanciful exaggerations of ancient histories lost to millennia. Now, standing within the cavernous hold of a forgotten dreadnought, Arian faced undeniable proof. The orb was real, and it was calling. As he made his way toward the engineering deck to begin power core extraction, his helmet comms buzzed sharply. "Arian, you copy? Jorah here." The familiar crackle of her voice was a grounding contrast to the eerie silence around him. "We've secured the perimeter. No sign of scavengers or reaver patrols in the area. But I'm picking up strange energy spikes on the long-range sensors. Might want to be careful." Arian swallowed his apprehension, pressing onward. The corridors narrowed as he descended deeper, winding past twisted pipes and shattered consoles. Occasionally, faint glimmers of starship graffiti scrawled messages of desperation and hope from the doomed crew caught his eye, their faded ink telling stories of final battles and lost comrades. Each step echoed louder in his ears, punctuating the loneliness of this ghost ship that had drifted through space, forgotten by time. He reached the engine control nexus, where the massive quantum drive once thrummed with the power of a dozen suns. Here, the wreck told its final tale in twisted metal and scorched circuitry. The core chamber was a cavernous hollow, with fractured energy conduits snaking like the roots of a cosmic tree, severed and silent. Using his toolkit, Arian began the delicate work of isolating the remaining core fragments, his fingers steady despite the ship's oppressive atmosphere. As he worked, fragments of the ship's black box whispered into his HUD log entries, sensor data, and fragmented conversations played out like ghostly echoes of the past. One entry caught his attention, a covert transmission, encrypted and buried deep within the ship's secured comms. The captain's voice was steady but urgent, issuing orders to alter the mission trajectory to a previously uncharted coordinate. Initiate Protocol Delta 7. The Coalition must not know. The fate of the universe depends on it. The message ended abruptly, followed by static and alarm warnings. The implications hit Arian like a supernova. This ship had been on a secret mission, possibly carrying the orb as a weapon or a key to an ancient gateway. Heart pounding, Arian packed the last core module and moved toward the cargo bay, where the Persephone's crane awaited to haul the salvage. But as he crossed the threshold, his helmet sensors flared with an alert unidentified energy signatures, faint but growing, emanated from the orb tucked inside his suit. The relic was awakening, reacting not only to his presence, but to something far larger, something stirring in the nebula itself. Outside, the Persephone's comms crackled urgently. Arian, we've got company. Reaver skiffs detected closing fast. They must have tracked the distress beacon when the dreadnought went dark. You need to move now. Panic sharpened his focus. With no time to lose, he secured the orb in a containment pod, activated the tug's engines, and prepared for a desperate escape through the shifting clouds of cosmic dust and radiation storms that painted the nebula in ghostly hues. The chase was harrowing. Reaver fighters, sleek and vicious, carved streaks of plasma through the void, their war cries echoing through comm channels. The Persephone, though smaller and outgunned, danced deftly among asteroid belts and nebula storms, Arian's piloting honed by years of scrap runs and narrow escapes. Every pulse of the orb sent ripples through the ship's systems, triggering erratic energy surges that both aided and threatened their flight. Arian realized the artifact was more than a relic. It was a beacon, a key, and a catalyst, pulling enemies and allies alike toward an uncertain fate. As they broke free from the Reaver pursuit, Arian's resolve hardened. The secret he had uncovered was no mere prize. It was a burden and a beacon of hope. Somewhere in the dark reaches of space, powerful forces would stop at nothing to claim it, and it was up to him to unlock its mysteries before the universe could be reshaped or destroyed. Steeling himself, Arian looked out into the glittering expanse beyond the viewport, the orb's cobalt glow casting eerie shadows across his determined face. The wreck of the Sierra's lament was just the beginning. What lay ahead was a journey beyond salvage and survival, a voyage into the very heart of cosmic destiny. Chapter 2. The Hidden Code and the Galactic Web. The Persephone's engines roared against the backdrop of the Ember Nebula's swirling cosmic dust, streaking through drifting clouds of ionized gas, like a shooting star fleeing an ancient curse. Arian Voss stood at the ship's cramped command console, his eyes flicking between the orb's cobalt pulse within its containment and the myriad holographic readouts projected before him. Despite the exhilaration of their narrow escape from the cerulean Reaver skiffs, the weight of his discovery sat, like a black hole, within his chest, an abyss, swallowing certainty, swallowing hope. What was this orb? Why had the Sierra's Lament's captain been willing to sacrifice everything to hide it? And more importantly, what was Arian's place in this cosmic puzzle now? Jorah's voice chimed from the communications array, steady but edged with urgency. Arian, we're in uncharted space now. I cross-checked the coordinates embedded in that encrypted captain's log you found. They lead to a sector the Coalition's archives marked as forbidden zones. No ships, no colonies, just dead silence and blacklisted star charts. Whatever they were hiding out here, it's been wiped from all official records. She paused, then added, you might want to sit down for this. The holographic console flickered and reshaped, forming a rotating star map dotted with glowing beacons connected by intricate filaments, like a vast cosmic web spun across light years. At its center, a pulsing nexus of pure energy, the coordinates from the captain's secret transmission. Arian's breath caught. The orb in the containment pod thrummed in resonance, each pulse syncing with the star map's radiant core. It's a gateway, Arian whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. This isn't just an energy source, it's a key to something enormous. Some kind of wormhole or transdimensional portal. He reached out, fingers brushing the holograms as they shifted under his touch. If we can access this gateway, it could rewrite everything we know about space travel. Instantaneous jumps between galaxies, bypassing light years and seconds. The implications for the Coalition hell, for all life in the universe, are staggering. Jorah nodded slowly. But it's also dangerous. If the wrong factions get control of this technology, reavers, warlords, or even the Coalition's own power brokers, the balance of power will shatter. Wars could escalate beyond control. Entire star systems could be annihilated or enslaved in the blink of an eye. Arian leaned back, eyes locked on the orb's pulsating glow. He remembered the warnings in the ancient precursor legends. Gatekeepers hold the keys to creation and destruction alike. The Sierra's lament had been their unwilling custodian, and now that key rested with him. A simple salvage mechanic suddenly thrust into a role written in Starfire and prophecy. Weeks passed in a blur of tension and discovery aboard the Persephone. The orb refused to reveal its full nature, oscillating between silent dormancy and furious bursts of energy that caused the ship's systems to flare unpredictably. Arian's nights blurred into days as he studied its crystalline surface, running diagnostics and quantum interface protocols gleaned from scattered precursor fragments he'd painstakingly collected over years of scavenging ancient tech bazaars. Each experiment teased a fraction of knowledge, fragments of a code buried in subspace signals encoded deep within the orb's molecular lattice. The orb's secret began to unfurl in layers, waveforms of pure energy that defied conventional physics, streams of data encrypted in quantum fluctuations, and a faint but persistent echo of something else. A voice, a memory, or a warning from the last sentient beings who had wielded this power. The more Arian decoded, the more the ship seemed to pulse with life. The rusted metal halls of the Sierra's lament whispered through his comm feeds, spectral data flows revealing snapshots of the crew's final days, frantic messages, battle logs, and pleas for salvation as unknown forces closed in. Arian found himself drawn into the mind of Captain Kira Solon, the ship's last commander, a woman renowned for her fierce loyalty and unbreakable will. Her logs spoke of a shadow war beyond the physical, a conflict against entities who sought to harness the gateway to impose their will across the multiverse. She detailed desperate attempts to activate the orb's latent potential, efforts that ultimately cost her crew their lives and left the Sierra's lament adrift on the edge of oblivion. One particular log entry chilled Arian to the core. It referenced the Harbinger Protocol, a contingency designed to prevent the orb's power from being exploited. The protocol's final step was an activation code, a cipher locked in a complex quantum key only accessible to a chosen bearer custodian, who would bear the responsibility of safeguarding or unleashing the gateway. Arian's heart raced as he realized the staggering truth. The orb had chosen him. As the days folded into endless calculations and sleepless nights, a new threat loomed beyond the nebula's eerie glow. The Cerulean Reavers were not content with mere salvage rights. Their star raiders, brutal and cunning, had begun to rally under a mysterious new leader known only as the Void Master, a shadowy figure rumored to have made dark pacts with ancient cosmic forces. Their hunt for the orb intensified, targeting the Persephone with precision strikes designed to overwhelm and capture. Arian and Jorah found themselves locked in a deadly game of cat and mouse across the volatile stellar nurseries and asteroid fields, each encounter threatening to end in destruction. In the crucible of danger, Arian discovered allies in the most unlikely places, fractured remnants of the Coalition fleet who saw in the orb a chance for redemption, rogue traders who balanced precariously on the edge of legality, and a network of underground scholars dedicated to unearthing precursor technologies and preventing galactic catastrophe. Together, they formed a fragile alliance, bound by a shared goal: protect the gateway and uncover its true purpose. The orb's secret began to transcend technology. Strange phenomena erupted around the Persephone, temporal distortions that twisted moments into echoes, shadows of future events flickering at the edge of perception, and dreams seeded with cryptic visions of star-spanning civilizations rising and falling. Arian's own mind was touched by these ripples, granting him flashes of insight and a growing sense of connection to an ancient cosmic consciousness that spanned light years and lifetimes. One fateful night, as the Persephone drifted through a swirling maelstrom of stellar debris, Arian stood alone on the observation deck, the orb glowing softly in his hands. The universe seemed to hold its breath. The constellation patterns outside aligned in a perfect celestial convergence, and the orb's light intensified, casting prismatic shadows that danced like spirits across the deck. With a trembling voice, Arian whispered the fragmented activation code deciphered from Captain Solon's logs. The orb pulsed violently, unleashing a wave of energy that rippled through the ship and beyond. Space itself shimmered, and a gateway, a swirling vortex of iridescent light opened before the Persephone's bow, revealing vistas of star systems never charted and dimensions folded into impossible geometry. The gateway was no longer a myth. It was a door to the infinite. But with the gateway open, the universe shifted. New players emerged from the cosmic shadows, their intentions unknown but undeniably powerful. The race for control of the secret had only just begun. Chapter 3: Beyond the Gateway, the Unseen War. The shimmering gateway stretched before the Persephone like a living tapestry woven from light and shadow, an ethereal portal humming with the resonance of untold worlds and uncharted dimensions. Arian Voss stood at the command deck, fingers trembling as he grappled with the enormity of what he had unleashed. The orb, now glowing with an intensity that filled the ship with a pulse of raw cosmic energy, had rewritten the rules of his existence. With this gateway, the very fabric of space and time had become a malleable canvas, waiting for the strokes of those who dared to command it. Yet, in the vast silence beyond the known, something older, deeper, and infinitely more dangerous stirred. As the Persephone stabilized its position near the gateway, the ship's sensors strained against a flood of data streams of information folding over each other like a fractal storm, multidimensional signals that defied traditional computation. Jorah's voice cracked through the calm, tense but controlled. Arian, we're detecting multiple energy signatures approaching from the other side. Some read as ships, others as entities. This is not just a transit point. It's a nexus of life, technology, and power far beyond our understanding. Arian's eyes scanned the cascading holograms. Vessels of alien design, some shimmering with organic bioluminescence, others armored with crystalline plating, began to emerge from the gateway's luminal depths. Their intentions were unclear. Some radiated curiosity, others hostility. But what unsettled Arian most was the faint impression of a presence, something intangible yet oppressive, lurking behind those visible threats. The gateway was not simply a bridge between stars. It was a battleground where unseen forces clashed for supremacy. He activated the ship's communications array, broadcasting a cautious message in the lingua galactic common, his voice steady despite the storm of uncertainty. This is Arian Voss of the Persephone. I come bearing no aggression. We seek knowledge and peace. Static answered back at first, then fragmented replies in alien tongues filtered through, a chaotic chorus of warnings, demands, and riddles. Among the responses, one transmission stood out, a crystalline voice speaking in measured cadence, claiming to represent the custodians of the void, ancient keepers sworn to guard the gateways against corruption. The custodians' envoy warned of an existential threat, a shadow war raging in the folds of space, where entities known as the Eclipsers sought to seize control of the gateway network and unravel the cosmic order. They spoke of cosmic cycles of creation and destruction, where civilizations rose and fell not by chance, but by the machinations of those who controlled the flow of energy through these portals. The orb, Arian realized, was a fragment of this network, a master key capable of either preserving balance or unleashing chaos. Days bled into nights as the Persephone lingered in this liminal zone. Arian's connection to the orb deepened, its energy weaving through his neural implants, unlocking visions of star-forged cathedrals, sprawling cities perched on the edge of black holes, and battles waged across dimensions where time bent and fractured. He saw echoes of the Sierra's Lament's crew in these visions, warriors, scholars, and guardians caught in a struggle far beyond their mortal grasp. But knowledge came at a cost. The orb's power stirred latent forces within Arian, reshaping his perception of reality. Shadows flickered at the edges of his consciousness, whispers of forgotten deities and quantum specters tugging at the edges of his sanity. He began to question what was real and what was illusion, wrestling with the possibility that the gateway might itself be a sentient entity, testing those who sought its secrets. Meanwhile, the Cerulean Reavers intensified their assault. Led by the Void Master, they had crossed the threshold of the gateway, unleashing a fleet of biomechanical warships that twisted and morphed like living nightmares. The Persephone, nimble but outmatched, danced through the chaos, weaving between bursts of plasma and shadow tendrils that licked the hull with corrosive fire. In the heat of battle, Arian's skills as a mechanic and pilot became a symphony of survival, juggling power surges from the orb, repairing critical systems mid-flight, and coordinating with Jorah's expert drone maneuvers to strike back at the Reaver fleet. In a desperate gambit, Arian initiated the activation of the Harbinger protocol embedded within the orb. The ship shuddered as waves of energy cascaded outward, generating a temporal distortion field that warped the battlefield. Time folded and stretched, giving the Persephone fleeting advantages, a few precious seconds to strike, to outmaneuver, to escape. Yet the cost was evident. The orb's power was consuming the ship's core reserves, threatening to ignite a chain reaction that could obliterate them all. During a tense lull, Arian delved deeper into the encrypted logs recovered from the Sierra's lament. He uncovered a revelation that shook him to his core. The orb was not merely a key, but a seed, an ancient relic created by the precursors to birth new universes. It contained the blueprint for cosmic genesis, a power so profound that its misuse could unravel existence itself. The Sierra's Lament's mission had been to protect it from falling into the wrong hands at all costs, even if it meant self-destruction. Haunted by this truth, Arian confronted a terrible choice: destroy the orb to prevent catastrophe, or harness its power to forge a new path for humanity and the galaxy. The Custodian's envoy had offered a dire warning: no one could wield such power without becoming both creator and destroyer. Arian's mind spiraled with possibilities, the fate of countless worlds resting on a single decision. In the final hours before the Reaver's next assault, Arian reached out through the gateway itself, sending a message of alliance to the scattered factions fighting against the Eclipsers. The response was a chorus of hope and determination, warriors and scholars, rebels and diplomats united by a common cause. The Persephone became a beacon in the darkness, its ragged crew transformed into the vanguard of a cosmic resistance. As the gateway pulsed with the light of 1,000 stars, Arian stood on the precipice of destiny, his heart heavy but resolute. The war beyond the gateway was not just for survival, it was a battle for the soul of the universe itself. Chapter 4: The Reckoning and the New Dawn. The cold void of space stretched endlessly beyond the Persephone's reinforced viewport, but inside, a storm of fire, light, and destiny was reaching its crescendo. Arian Voss stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the swirling gateway ahead, now thrumming with a fierce, almost sentient power that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the universe itself. Behind him, Jorah and the rest of their fragile alliance prepared for the oncoming storm, a final, desperate battle that would decide the fate of countless worlds and the very fabric of existence. The Cerulean Reavers, emboldened by their alliance with the shadowy Eclipsers, surged forth in an armada of warped ships that defied physics and reason. Their biomechanical tendrils writhed with malevolent intent, and their leader, the enigmatic Void Master, radiated a dark aura that seemed to consume light itself. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a war between creation and oblivion, order and chaos. The gateway was the prize, the source of infinite power and the ultimate weapon that could either rebuild the cosmos or reduce it to ashes. Arian's fingers danced across the controls, managing power surges from the orb, integrating its enigmatic energy into the Persephone's systems while maintaining the delicate balance that kept the ship from fracturing under the strain. The orb had become more than a relic. It was an extension of his very being, a cosmic tether that connected him to ancient forces beyond comprehension. Each pulse filled him with visions of star-forged civilizations, cosmic architects weaving reality, and the fragile threads of existence hanging in a precarious balance. The battle erupted with ferocious intensity. Plasma bolts streaked through the void, illuminating the darkness with violent bursts of color. The Persephone weaved through the chaos, Jorah's drones swarming to intercept incoming strikes, while Arian's calculated maneuvers kept them one step ahead of destruction. The gateway rippled as energies clashed, the very fabric of space bending and twisting under the assault. The custodians of the void appeared, their spectral vessels shimmering with an ethereal glow, joining the fray with weapons of pure energy designed to counter the Reaver's corruption. Amid the chaos, Arian made a fateful decision. The Harbinger Protocol, a last resort safeguard embedded within the orb, could be activated to unleash a wave of creation energy so powerful it would reset the gateway's matrix, sealing it and wiping out the invading forces. But such a blast would also devastate the surrounding star systems, risking untold collateral damage. The burden of choice weighed heavily on him, the potential for salvation intertwined with the shadow of annihilation. Drawing strength from the Alliance and his unyielding resolve, Arian initiated the protocol. The orb's light expanded, engulfing the Persephone in a radiant cocoon. Waves of pure cosmic energy surged outward, unraveling the Reaver's biomechanical constructs and neutralizing the Eclipser's dark tendrils. The gateway shimmered, then began to stabilize, its chaotic ripples smoothing into a steady, pulsating beacon of balance. But the energy backlash rocked the Persephone, systems faltering as the ship struggled to withstand the tempest. As the dust settled, Arian's vision cleared to reveal a transformed universe. The gateway had been purified, its infinite potential preserved, but guarded by new safeguards forged in the fires of battle. The Alliance stood victorious, but forever changed. The custodians bestowed upon Arian the title of Guardian, a role once held by the Sierra's Lament's captain, passed down to those chosen to protect the gateway and ensure its power was never again abused. The galaxy awakened to a new dawn. Star systems once isolated now found pathways through the gateway network, sparking an era of exploration, cooperation, and hope. The Persephone, once a humble salvage tug, became a symbol of unity and resilience, a testament to the courage of those who dared to face the unknown. Arian and Jorah, bound by shared sacrifice and vision, embarked on a journey to guide this new age, uncovering lost precursor wisdom and forging alliances that transcended species and worlds. Yet, amid the promise, Arian remained vigilant. The shadows cast by the Eclipsers still lingered in the dark recesses of space, and the gateway's power was a beacon that would forever attract those who sought dominion or destruction. The universe was vast and unpredictable, a tapestry woven with threads of light and darkness. But in the heart of that infinite expanse, a simple mechanic had discovered a secret that could change everything and chosen to become the key that held the balance. As the Persephone soared through the stars, the orb's cobalt light glowing softly at Arian's side, he whispered a vow to the cosmos, to guard the gateway, to protect the fragile harmony of existence, and to ensure that the secret of the wrecked dreadnought Sierra's Lament would never be forgotten. For in that secret lay not just the fate of the universe, but the hope of all life, burning bright against the endless night. The void beyond the Persephone's battered hull stretched into infinite darkness, flecked with the cold shimmer of distant stars. Yet inside the ship, a tempest of light, purpose, and destiny collided in chaotic harmony. Arian Voss stood motionless for a moment on the command deck, his eyes fixed on the swirling gateway before him, a living seam in the fabric of reality. This was no longer merely a passageway between star systems. It was a nexus, a fulcrum upon which the fate of countless galaxies balanced precariously. The orb, cradled gently in his palms, pulsed with cobalt fire, a heartbeat echoing the vast cosmic forces intertwined with his own. The battle had reached a fever pitch. The Cerulean Reavers, twisted and ferocious, unleashed a relentless storm of biomechanical monstrosities across the vacuum, their sinewy vessels oozing dark energy tendrils that sought to snuff out the gateway's light. The Void Master, a figure shrouded in whispers and shadow, commanded the Reavers with ruthless precision. His fleet moved like a living nightmare, a cosmic scourge intent on claiming the gateway's power for domination and devastation. Against them, the Persephone and its makeshift alliance fought with desperate ingenuity. Jorah's drone squadrons swarming to intercept missiles, the spectral custodian vessels unleashing beams of pure quantum light, and Arian's own hand guiding the flow of the orb's wild energies into weapons, shields, and the fragile balance of the gateway itself. As plasma fire arced and exploded around the ship, the very space rippled with the fury of creation and destruction entwined. The orb's energy surged through the Persephone's systems, infusing the ship with cosmic power but threatening to tear it apart from within. Arian's mind became a nexus of swirling visions, flashes of ancient civilizations that had risen and fallen, cosmic architects weaving the very essence of existence, and the terrible consequences when the delicate equilibrium tipped into chaos. In the eye of this cosmic maelstrom, Arian faced the ultimate reckoning. The Harbinger Protocol, an ancient safeguard encoded within the orb by the precursors, awaited activation. Its purpose was absolute: to reset the gateway's matrix through a cataclysmic burst of creation energy powerful enough to purge corruption, but devastating enough to obliterate entire star clusters within the gateway's influence. The choice was agonizing. Activate the protocol and risk annihilating countless innocents, or refuse and let the Voidmaster's darkness spread unchecked, consuming all in its path. The weight of this decision crushed Arian's spirit, yet he knew there could be no hesitation. He looked to Jorah, her steady gaze a silent anchor amid the chaos. Together, they had endured impossible trials, their bond forged in fire and light. Together, they would carry the burden of this final act. With trembling resolve, Arian placed the orb within the ship's central power conduit, initiating the Harbinger Protocol sequence. The ship groaned as energy cascaded outward in blinding waves, reshaping the very fabric of space around them. The gateway pulsed violently, then burst forth in a dazzling supernova of light, sweeping away the Reaver fleet and cleansing the corrupting tendrils of the Eclipser's influence. The vortex stabilized, its chaotic ripples calming into a steady, radiant beacon. But the cost was immediate and severe. The Persephone's hull cracked under the strain, systems failing one by one. The crew braced for the inevitable. In these final moments, the Custodian's envoy appeared on the comms, their ethereal voices both mournful and reverent. They bestowed upon Arian the mantle of Guardian, a title reserved for those chosen to protect the gateway and steward its infinite potential. As the Persephone's systems faded, Arian and Jorah prepared for an uncertain fate. Yet, in the heart of the ship, the orb's cobalt light remained steady, a symbol of hope amid ruin. Then, in a miraculous surge, the ship's core reignited, the gateway's purified energy sustaining the Persephone's fragile life. The universe had accepted Arian's sacrifice, granting a new dawn born from destruction. Beyond the gateway, star systems once isolated by distance and fear found pathways to one another, sparking an unprecedented era of exploration and alliance. The secrets of the precursors, long buried in myth, began to resurface, wisdom that promised to elevate civilizations and heal wounds carved by centuries of war. Arian and Jorah, forever changed by their journey, became the first guardians of this new cosmic order. They traveled the vast expanse, guiding fledgling alliances, safeguarding the gateways, and unraveling mysteries whispered in the stars. The Persephone, a ship once marked for scrap, transformed into a legend, a beacon of resilience and unity. Yet, even as hope blossomed, shadows remained. The Voidmaster was gone, but the Eclipser's influence lingered like a cancer in the dark corners of space. The balance of creation was delicate, and the gateway's power a magnet for ambition and chaos. Arian knew the path ahead would be fraught with peril, but he embraced his role with steadfast courage. In the quiet moments beneath alien suns and distant nebulae, Arian often thought back to the Sierra's lament, the wreck that had started it all. Its lost crew, their sacrifice, and the secret they had guarded echoed in his heart. Through their sacrifice, a new universe had been born, and with it, the eternal promise that even in the vast darkness, light could prevail. As the Persephone sailed onward, its cobalt beacon glowing softly against the endless night, Arian whispered his vow, a promise etched into the fabric of the cosmos itself, to protect the gateways, to honor those who came before, and to guard the fragile hope that could change the universe. The secret of the wreck was no longer buried in silence. It was alive, vibrant, and the beginning of everything.